move over canaries in coal mines, because in terms of flashing red indicators, nothing beats what is happening at America's largest port right now, as in this afternoon. Thanks to Donald Trump's tariffs, a radical act of economic and political self-sabotage, America's harbors are very suddenly much quieter, lonelier places. Take the Port of LA, which has been, since the turn of the century, the busiest port in the Western Hemisphere. Its directors say a fifth of normally scheduled vessel arrivals for this month have been canceled, and cargo coming in is about 35% lower now than it was the same time last year. Joining us now is the executive director of the Port of Los Angeles, Gene Seroka. Thank you for being here.
Good to see you, Nicole. Thank you.
Just give me a snapshot in time, a today story of what is happening at the Port of LA.
Fewer vessels coming across the Pacific with less cargo. It was pretty quiet out there when I started about 6 o'clock this morning. And realistically, we've been predicting this for some time. We've got a great system, the Port Optimizer, that sees loadings of cargo in Asia up to 40 days before they get here to LA. Not a surprise to us, and we knew what the impact of these tariffs we're going to have. So it's quiet. Your numbers are accurate. We're going to be down 35% this week, which means fewer job opportunities for dock workers, truckers, and warehouse folks.
What does that mean for the American consumer?
Now, it's going to be interesting because retailers, big and small, have been telling me that we've got about 4, 5, 6 weeks left of normal inventory levels. If this continues on for any duration, we'll have fewer items to select from, some spot shortages, and likely prices will increase as they're affected by these tariffs from a host of countries across the Pacific Rim.
I heard you offer a fantastic articulation of sort of the best case scenario. If Donald Trump turns all of this off tonight, he goes to bed, he doesn't like all of the coverage about people having to live with $2 instead of 30, to quote him accurately. I don't know anybody making that adjustment, but that is his advice for the $30 households. What is the best case scenario if he wakes up tomorrow and ends the trade war with China?
We're about a month away from seeing an influx of cargo here in LA, and we'll kind of walk through that. It'll take about 2 weeks for the liner shipping companies to reposition their vessels. They're off doing other things or just parked right now due to the low volume. They'll have to get resituated to places like Qingdao, Shanghai, and Xiamen, and then load up the cargo that's been waiting. Take about 2 more weeks to come over here to Los Angeles, and then we got to distribute that cargo not only in Southern California, but to 15 major hubs around the country. So even if we get a trade framework right now, it's still going to take a while to replenish the inventory across the United States.
And to be clear, there's no indication, even in Donald Trump's public comments today, that that is in the works. What is the, I know through the Port of Long Beach, goods come through the Port of Long Beach that end up in every congressional district in the country. What is the impact of goods that come through the Port of LA?
Same thing. All 435 congressional districts, all 50 states. We can tell a member of Congress in suburban Kansas City what the economic impact is of this port on their geography, jobs, value of goods, imports, exports. This is a leading economic indicator for the nation and an engine to the nation's economy.
Are you able to tell us what this looks like today compared to COVID? I mean, are you seeing are you able to sort of help people understand what this is going to feel like in terms of both the lack of supply and that anxiety that people felt around toilet paper and other things, as well as price impacts?
Yeah, there's a little bit of similarity, Nicole. When we were in COVID, March of 2020, we saw the volume at the Port of Los Angeles drop by about 50% for that entire month. As you said in your opening, we've got about 17 vessels, or 20% of our normal arriving vessels, canceled for the month of May. So while this is right up there with a shock to the system, it may not be as a dramatic drop-off as we saw during COVID, but it's still a big one. And then you get yourself concerned with retailers saying they've got a timeline on remaining inventory. So, you know, you may see a blue shirt that you like, but it's not in your size or style. You see a bunch of purple ones and yellow shirts. They're just not to your liking. That could be a likely outcome of what we're doing here, and there's no end in sight.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the difference is that during COVID, there was, we were working on a horizon toward a vaccine and towards reopenings. When this is done at the whim of one person's policy interest, what is your ability to sort of plan and forecast?
Yeah, that was a global impact where everybody was pulling together. Close friends in the port industry, supply chains, importers, exporters, all leaning on each other to get through that. And then we found out what online buying and curbside pickup was at that time to help start boosting that American economy. But as far as forecasting, with the whipsaw effect of information that's been coming out of Washington, the reprieve of 90 days, the changes with electronics and auto parts and maybe some retail in the middle of that, it is really hard to forecast. And right now, Nicolle, we're in the middle of our final placement for budgeting. The new fiscal year here in Los Angeles starts on July 1, and it's really tough to estimate what we're going to be doing from a freight standpoint, our capital improvement program, how we're going to be investing in this infrastructure. But we've had a really strong financial policy here over the last decade. We will invest through this cycle on infrastructure, digitization, and our waterfront here in the community. But it's going to be a tough time.
Your sort of clarity and knowledge is so important. I know everyone's hanging on your every word. I'm going to ask you to stick around through a break. I'm going to bring Jocelyn Benson in as well. Don't go anywhere. We'll all be right back.
There are 18 very important trading relationships. We are currently negotiating with 17 of those trading partners. China, we have not engaged in negotiations with as of yet. So I expect that we can see a substantial reduction in the tariffs that we are being charged. Many of our trading partners have approached us with very good offers.
They want to meet, and they're doing no business right now. And those ships are turning around in the Pacific Ocean. Big turn, those are big ships. Those ships take about 10 miles to turn.
We're back with Jean Seroka, Executive Director of the Port of Los Angeles, and Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. Jean, if you are a small business owner in any state, in any congressional district in this country, and your inventory is such that you can afford to buy a year's worth of inventory, what are you thinking and feeling and experiencing? What are your challenges right now?
And that's the problem. We've got about 125,000 companies that call Los Angeles home for imports each year. And no one company has more than 5% of the port's business. So I'm talking to companies big and small, medium-sized folks. And what those two are telling me are that they could not bring in inventory early, whether it be the cost of carrying that, the interest rates, getting warehousing, et cetera. Now they're in the crosshairs. Do I buy at these exorbitant levels? China prices for their products right now are 2.5 times more than they were just last month. And if I try to pass any of this on to my consumer, I'm not competitive with the big guys that I go up against every single day. I've heard folks now tell me that they are struggling to make May payroll. They have difficulty at what they're going to do with their longtime customers. This is really difficult. Some of these are family businesses.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's fascinating that Wall Street is trying to decipher Bessent and Trump's musings. But if you're a small business owner, regardless of who you voted for, that feels like a luxury. And I guess I'll put this to you, Jocelyn. What is being done and who is standing with the country's small businesses?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I think as I hear all this is no one asked for this. Like, everyone asked for, small business owners or voters asked for administration who would drive down costs, make it easier to grow a business. None of that is happening here. As I talk to small business owners in Saginaw, I'm hearing the exact same things. They're worried that they can't keep their business open or make payroll next month, stressed about not only can they get inventory, but if they can get it, how much they have to pay for it. I mean, this is happening all over our country, and I think this isn't a moment where governors can try to step in and negotiate separate deals or talk with folks. And we have several ports in Michigan trying to figure out ways to find another way in or support these small businesses as we get through this chaotic moment, because we hope it's just a moment and that whatever it is that is causing this reckless policy comes to an end. But as you said earlier, there's not yet a light on the horizon that even tells us when the expiration date is going to be for this reckless behavior. And we all are just in a wait-and-see mode as we hear this reckless behavior and this confusion and chaos and try to support our small businesses in the meantime.
There's not a light at the end of the tunnel because it's not a storm. Donald Trump just woke up and decided to do this. I want to make sure people understand how things get made. This is someone who was explaining earlier on our air. Do we have that sound about a car door? Let me play this.
There are no Canadian branded vehicles that are coming across the border. It's not that there's some sort of Canadian automaker with a maple leaf on the front that we import from Windsor, Canada. These are American automakers that have parts distributors. They have entire assembly plants in, for example, Ontario that have been there for decades. I went to Michigan and I tracked a car part and tried to see how the supply chain works. The same car part that allows a car door to latch in place goes across the border 4 times before entering your vehicle. So this is a very deeply intertwined type of supply chain that cannot be undone. And again, I think the point here is that it is not a Canadian part. It is not an American part. They have been mixed for decades and decades.
Do you think voters understand that?
Well, I think a lot of folks in our auto industry do know that well. What's clear is that the president doesn't understand that, and that's why we're seeing these policies come into place that is only going to have a sort of very strong economic impact. We're not going to yet see manufacturing boom, although yes, we all want to see more things made in Michigan, more things made in America. We're on the same page there. This is not the way to get there. This is just causing economic strife that's only going to raise the cost of living in our state and across the country.
Jean, if you had to counsel policymakers, what is sort of your sagest piece of advice that could be put to use right now?
Rules-based trade is an imperative to protect American jobs, interests, iconic brands like Ford and GM that just came out with guidance yesterday from the state of Michigan, and protecting companies that are important to us. Get past that. The American economy is 70% you and me buying. That's going to slow down right now. So let's get past this, work on what's important to us, the trading countries' important areas, and then we get on to the doing. What the administration has said publicly is they're looking at putting frameworks of trade deals together. That can happen at rapid pace if we have willing partners on the other side. That India-UK deal that was announced this morning tells me that folks are trying to make other arrangements outside the U.S.
And that's not a good piece of news for American businesses or consumers. Jean, your clarity is a gift. Thank you for spending time with us today. And Jocelyn, congratulations on the book. Today is Pub Day. It is a must read. Thank you for joining us to talk about it. Another break for us. We'll be right back.